Alex Jones Show, because there is a war on for your mind.
All right, I shot a detailed report before airtime today so that I could add all the research, all the documents, all the video clips in. We're going to premiere that report. It's 13 minutes long, so it'll take one segment and part of another coming up at the start of the next segment. And the video will be posted. It's being uploaded right now by the next hour, by the second hour at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. And it deals with the fact that the occupied United States, this country run by Soros, Goldman Sachs, and a few mega banks, openly is already prosecuting asymmetrical warfare in 4 different countries bordering Russia and in Syria. They are also admittedly putting out white papers that they're trying to overthrow Russia internally. They are also admitting in the latest WikiLeaks documents that they are trying to basically end the free press in this country, and that they believe a war with Russia will be the political distraction they need. Now, we've known this for a while, but this has now been confirmed in triplicate. They don't really even try to hide it, quite frankly. And we noticed that over a month ago, Hillary came out and said, if there's a cyber attack by Russia, we should militarily strike them. Then we noticed that Northcom and NATO and all of them came out and said, that's our new policy, which is saying anybody hacks us and we just think it's you, we're going to militarily hit you, not just cyber attack. Then Joe Biden came out last Wednesday from a clip that aired today on Meet the Press, because they shot it back on Wednesday. But they aired just the clip promoting the show this Sunday, where he said, we're going to launch a massive cyber attack in the next few weeks against Russia. And if they respond, we're basically going to militarily hit you. So they're poking the bear right before the election, 22 days out. This is a giant October-November surprise. This is so classic to have a regime that's in trouble start a war. That is the classic 101 move of a tyrant. And it's all over the British, German, Russian, Japanese news, Brazilian. Everybody sees what it is. We're acting worse than Fidel Castro. The people that have hijacked our government have been caught in a criminal conspiracy against this nation. And they came out. The White House spokesman last week, Obama last week, and Hillary's spokeswoman on Friday naming me by name and saying that my dangerous ideas have made it into Trump. Now, I'd love to take credit for that. But quite frankly, I'm telling you what's really going on. Trump's being advised by Senator Sessions and General Flynn. If you want to know who he mainly listens to, and both men basically sound just like me. You know why? We're not in an echo chamber, folks. We can all get up and see the sunrise in the morning and agree it's a sunrise. We can all agree that if we drink a glass of lemonade, it's lemonade. We can all agree when we see tyranny, it's tyranny. So Clinton spokeswoman, Trump campaign overtaken by Breitbart and InfoWars. They act like his greatest strength is his greatest weakness. He comes out and says there's a conspiracy against the American people and the media is part of it. There's a global government being set up. They're taking our liberties. They're trying to start a war. It's the truth. This is such an incredible moment. And they know they're way behind in the polls. That's actually even coming out in mainstream news. They know Hillary and these emails are devastating. There's new ones out that I'm going to get to. Because just analyzing 5 of these emails took us 30 minutes today, where they know they're violating federal law, and the emails they say they are, and they laugh about it and say it doesn't matter, we're in charge. I mean, we've got them saying we are committing crimes, just what Tosh Plumlee, the CIA whistleblower, said here 4 years ago, using the State Department to ship illegal stuff out of the United States. Weapons, you name it. I mean, just right here, folks. We have them. This stack right here gives me, I just got chills. I don't say that on purpose. I mean, I just get chills. I used to get chills maybe once a month when I talked about some story. Little kids burning up at Waco, Hillary giving the order to go in and kill everybody. That came out in Congress. I got chills then. Now I get them every few minutes because this is just so incredible. How many of these devastating bombshells do we need? Now, they tend to launch big wars when the economy's about to implode. Notice Deutsche Bank, they say, is going down imminently. It could be, it's imminent. It could happen any time. Any moment. Worse than Lehman Brothers. 50 times bigger or more. The Shane Clintons, Larry Summers folks created the derivatives, set that whole scam up. The time bomb is ticking down. It's happening now. And we've got Hillary Clinton Remember this drumbeat that if you're against Hillary, you're for the Russians? It's ridiculous. And then we saw the head general, this is coming up, the head of the army say, Russia thinks they're going to bring down the EU and have the Brexit and blah, blah, blah. I'll hit you harder than you've ever been hit. The idea that people went out of the EU that they never voted to be part of because Russia's doing it. The idea that people went out of the EU and England because of the Russians. UKIP was founded 25 years ago. It's nothing to do with the Russians. The British people want to run their own country. And the same thing here. I want my own country. I don't want to be run by George Soros and Goldman Sachs. And so the answer is, I'm anti-Semitic. Well, I mean, I'm sorry George Soros claims he's Jewish. The guy helped round up Jews. He was a frickin' Nazi collaborator. It's not my fault he's Jewish. There's a lot of folks in it that aren't Jewish, but the thing is you bring all this race garbage in, kind of like when I was saying famously, hey, folks, Obamacare's got death panels and doubles prices. They had MSNBC say Alex Jones is against it because Obama's a black man and he's deeply racist. It has nothing to do with Obama. A bunch of foreign insurance companies basically wrote this thing. Again, we're being looted because our regulators are controlled by foreign interest. Other countries don't let people come in and loot them like this. Only third world countries do. And we act like a third world country that just bends the people over to every foreign interest and a paycheck. And the whole world sees it. And the Russians, after the fall of the Soviet Union for a decade, were treated like a $2 whore as well. And they're finally pulling away. And that's what's happening. And if you actually read the Financial Times of London or you read globalist publications, they admit, they go, world government's in trouble. Our whole program's falling apart. And I guess we did rip everybody off. We kind of deserve it. We better reform ourselves. People are really mad. Let's call ourselves liberal New World Order now. These are real headlines. I've got the articles. I'm going to show them to TV viewers and give listeners the headlines. I mean, they admit they're setting up world government. They admit it's unelected. They admit it's horrible. And then they say none of us are allowed to leave or the U.S. Army and CENTCOM's going to kill us. There's about to be a war, bigger than World War II. And if you think you're going to bring down the EU or NATO or get us out of Brexit, we'll hit you harder than you've ever been hit before. Oh, I guess go ahead and hit me then. Hell, nuke Texas then, because the governor here doesn't want to be under the feds and the globalists. I mean, hell, nuke us all. Dig up John Wayne's body. Burn it. He's a Russian agent. George Washington's a Russian agent. He didn't fight the British redcoats because they were enslaving and had high taxes and were press ganging people into forced naval service. No. George Washington was getting orders from Vladimir Putin, who got the time machine and went back and did it. And the British, again, they are not pulling out of the EU because they don't want the massive taxes and open borders and all the regulations and scams. 90% of their laws being made by the EU. They're doing it because they're Russian agents. But, folks, you say, well, nobody's buying that. They're launching a cyber attack against Russia, claiming they attacked here. And then they say, or we may launch a military attack. In doctrine, that's a declaration of war, saying we're going to attack you, clearly trying to trick the Russians into a response. Or they might even do that. They may just false flag and claim the Russians did it. The next 22 days, folks, terror attacks, economic crises, cyber attacks. Will they knock out East Coast power during the election? Suspend it, claiming the Russians did it? Anything is on the table. But clearly, blame the Russian card in their fist is the main ace card they've got. And we're here to expose it and blow their operation because the globalists are the outlanders. 22 days out from the historic election, a referendum against unelected global corporate government. There are more articles today about confirmed leprosy, bubonic plague in the United States. One of the fastest growing businesses in the U.S. is lice and bed bug removal. The infant mortality rate is the worst in the industrialized world. We were the best 50 years ago. I only throw that out there to show you globalism is meant to suck your country dry and kill your prosperity. Now, I'm going to get to this special report, but folks need to understand you've got to listen to the second hour today because we're going to get into the rest of the amazing news. Suddenly, I've seen the New York Times, the Washington Post, and others try to regain a little bit of credibility because they know they've destroyed themselves so badly, and Trump at internal polls is still 10, 15 points ahead. They know there's a mega massive landslide coming, so they're hedging their bets. They're admitting that in Haiti, Hillary and Chelsea even admitted, robbed and basically killed people with their actions on purpose. It's coming out that Hillary has been involved in massive criminal activity. They know there's no way they're going to be able to prop her up, even if she gets into office. They're figuring that out now. The elites are. They don't know what to do. And that's why Axelrod has come out, and I said this last week. Trump annihilated her last Sunday. If he does it again Wednesday from Vegas, and our reporters are going to be there, we're going to be interviewing Nigel Farage, who's advising him, and others. Notice how he turned around with Nigel Farage. I mean, that's like the Alex Jones of the UK, folks, and beyond. He's going to devastate her. And they're thinking about her not showing now. And notice she's not seen but every 4 or 5 days. She's got proxies out. She's super sick. I've pointed out, I believe she's getting blood transfusions to be able to even go from looking like she's dead to looking like she's okay. She still had to sit down last week most of the time. Clearly she's being given speed-type drugs, and Trump wants her drug tested. He's saying he'll get drug tested. I mean, Hillary's on Parkinson's medication. So they're in free fall. Now, what do they think is going to save their bacon? I shot this 13-minute report. We're going to air it in this segment and the next. It's going up on Infowars.com the next hour. You need to get it out to everybody. There's several other reports along the same line, but this is the big kahuna that breaks it down from every angle. The only part I didn't get into in this report is something I filed earlier this morning, and that's their plan B after this one. And that's the billions spent by the Ford Foundation, Soros, and White House-funded groups in the last 6-7 years to create racial division and prepare a destabilization technique with communist Islamic sleeper cells they've brought into Europe and the U.S. and the Black Lives Matter crowd to kill police and local government folks in mass, burn down major cities as a pretext to force capitulation to federal/globalization. And that, of course, is in the emails as well. We need to use demographic warfare to control the people. So we know they've done this in other areas of the Middle East. They've done it in Eastern Europe. Ukraine, they used anti-police sentiment to launch that civil war that overthrew the elected government. This isn't a defense of the police whole hog. It's a defense of we're not going to have outside groups overthrow the country. I mean, that's what they're doing. So we're on a razor's edge here. And notice, just happened today, breaking, Republican Party headquarters is firebombed. That's the Daily Mail, and an adjacent building is dubbed with a Nazi graffiti in North Carolina. See, it's okay, though, because they're Republicans. They're all Nazis, see? They've been dehumanized. But Hillary's false flag is to blame Russia for all the different hacks. Most of it's U.S. government people. We have that from Mr. Benny, former head of the NSA Technical. DNC people that see the corruption. Bernie Sanders people, they get shot in the back. The Russians admitted they hacked 6 years ago the UN emails where they were hiding the decline and in line to get a carbon tax. I mean, we have them. So the other facet of this is the larger cultural destabilization, and that's in the latest WikiLeaks. Podesta today says, oh, no, it's Arabs that shot up the school. Oh, we've got a, oh, no, it's not a white guy. Ugh, too bad. Well, make sure we don't call it terror. So that's the narrative, folks, because they're getting their sleeper cells in place, 80% military-age men, as their backup. That's their shock troops. Then they play the part of the saviors, rounding the folks up they brought in. Keep telling you this, but now we have the emails. This is serious asymmetrical warfare we're facing. His last one came out 2 days before Scalia was found dead, and they go, yeah, we're about to have some wet work, batten down the hatches and get ready. This is going to be rough, yeah. A lot of wet work going on out there. That means assassinations. Okay, but let's start the report. Most of it will play in the next segment. It's going up on Infowars.com very, very soon. This deals with the buildup, the preparation, all of it, to have the foreign globalists take over America. And then when the nationalists say no, well, obviously everybody's going to go with the nationalists. So you say they're enemy agents while you start a war that gets the public all angry and to psychologically line up behind the central government itself, a corporate takeover. Here it is. The information that I'm about to relay to you is the most grave that I've ever reported in my 21 years on air. It is so Armageddon in nature that I find it hard to believe this is actually happening in the year 2016. The United States, hijacked by globalist forces, has openly in the last week declared de facto war against Russia.
Why don't we send a message out to Putin?
We're sending a message.
The United States military will stop you and we will beat you harder than you've ever been beaten before.
Russia's hacked into a lot of things. China's hacked into a lot of things. Russia even hacked into the Democratic National Committee. We will be ready with serious political, economic, and military responses.
The message
He'll
is
know
sent that he'll know it. And it'll be at the time of our choosing and under the circumstances that have the greatest impact.
Right now, Senator, for us to control all of the airspace in Syria would require us to go to war against Syria and Russia.
I think it would be great if we got along with Russia, because we could fight ISIS together, as an example.
We could slide into nuclear war very quickly from her declared policy in Syria. So I won't sleep well at night if Donald Trump is elected, but I sure won't sleep well at night if Hillary Clinton is elected.
Future high-end war between nation states or great powers, very highly lethal, unlike anything our Army has experienced, at least since World War II.
So a message is going to be sent. Will the public know it?
I hope not.
We're going to get to the de facto declaration of war and the preparations for physical war, and what the head of the Army says will have as high a casualty level as World War II in a moment. But first, the background that's undisputed. Russia only has 2 military bases outside of its country. It's not expansionist. It's fighting radical Islam around the world and should be an ally of the United States. And many of our top generals and admirals and others have been on record saying that fact. The threat is radical Islam and China, not Russia.
I think it would be great if we got along with Russia, because we could fight ISIS together, as an example.
The reason the globalists are so upset at Trump is they know he's being advised by the former head of Defense Intelligence, General Flynn, who exposed the fact that Obama and Hillary were expanding ISIS and Al-Qaeda worldwide 3 years ago.
You are basically saying that even in government at the time, you knew those groups were around, you saw this analysis, and you were arguing against it, but who wasn't listening?
I think the administration.
The administration turned a blind eye to your analysis.
I don't know if they turned a blind eye. I think it was a decision. I think it was a willful decision.
A willful decision to go support an insurgency that had Salafists, Al-Qaeda,
well,
and Muslim
a willful
Brotherhood.
decision to do what they're doing.
The multinational corporations that brag at the Davos Forum that they've hijacked Europe and the United States and many other Western countries are a multinational outside force, basically taking over our nations and colonizing us with their world government system. So they need to have an outside threat to fool nationalists to give up their sovereignty to globalism in the name of protecting nationalism. That's why when the UK pulls out of the unelected dictatorial EU, mainstream media claims the Russians are behind it. That's why when Donald Trump and myself and others call for restoring our borders and doing better trade deals and not ceding our authority to the TPP, they claim we're Russian agents. Because Russia itself is pulling out of the New World Order. The UK is doing it, and so are we. So if you're a foreign group taking a country over, what do? You start pointing fingers at the patriots internally who are trying to save the country and claim they're foreign Ruski agents. By midsummer, we had seen WikiLeaks, DC Leaks, and other organizations dump hundreds of thousands of pages of hacked emails on the web showing the organized crime operation going on between the Democrats, the mainstream media, and the foreign banks that literally own and control them. So to divert the public from the crimes they'd committed, they doubled down and said, see, the Russians are involved in taking over our elections and manipulating things, but they showed no evidence. By late August, Hillary Clinton was 10 to 15 points in national polls behind Donald Trump. They were panicking. I began to see rumblings from the UN and the EU that they were going to send 10 times the number of observers they normally would to oversee our elections. That's why I went on air and said we need to look at the attempt by Hillary to steal this election. She stole the nomination from Bernie Sanders. The sky's the limit. Obama came out 2 weeks later and basically said I was crazy. Election fraud didn't exist. Then, 2 weeks after that, they announced that they were going to federalize the elections to keep them safe from right-wingers and the Russians. Then, on September 1st, Democratic Party nominee goes on national television and says that if we think Russia has launched any type of cyber attack on the U.S., that we'll launch a cyber attack on them and maybe even use physical military force.
You've seen reports. Russia's hacked into a lot of things. China's hacked into a lot of things. Russia even hacked into the Democratic National Committee. maybe even some state election systems. So we've got to step up our game, make sure we are well defended and able to take the fight to those who go after us. As president, I will make it clear that the United States will treat cyber attacks just like any other attack. We will be ready with serious political, economic, and military responses.
On cue for the next month, the leading story every night is that Russia is taking over the elections, that Russia has spies everywhere, and that Donald Trump works for them. Then, on October 7th, the director of national intelligence, getting his information from the CIA, comes out and says, "We know it's the Russians. They have cyber attacked us officially, but gave no evidence." Then a week later, Vice President Joe Biden, in mafioso style, goes on Meet the Press and tells Russia, "We're going to send you a message with a massive cyber attack. We've got incredible capabilities. We're going to show you."
Why haven't we sent a message yet to Putin?
We're sending a message. We have the capacity to do it, and the message will be sent at the time. He'll know it, and it'll be at the time of our choosing, and under the circumstances that have the greatest impact. The capacity to fundamentally alter the election is not what people think, and I tell you what, to the extent that they do, we will be proportional in what we do, and.
So a message is going to be sent. Will the public know it?
I hope not.
And this is where the critical, bureaucratic declaration of war outside of Congress's authority comes in. Because we have the Director of National Intelligence, we have the intelligence agency heads, we have Mrs. Clinton, we have Joe Biden, we have Obama meeting with top generals just 2 days ago talking about war with Russia in preparation and saying their new doctrine is, if you cyber attack us, we will cyber attack you and or both hit you with a military response, in Hillary Clinton's own words. And guess what? That's the new NATO doctrine they announced a month ago, that they may hit Russia first, or if any cyber attacks, any hacking of any type come from the massive country of Russia, that they will take that as an act of war. From any angle you look at, we are now officially at war with Russia, and this is surpassing anything that ever happened in the Cold War, according to even mainline analysts. And we have proxy wars on the border of Russia in Ukraine and in Russia's backyard in Syria. And we have top generals in Congress, like the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dunford, saying, look, you're asking me to put up a no-fly zone and shoot down Russian aircraft. They're going to attack us back. That is an act of war.
Right now, Senator, for us to control all of the airspace in Syria would require us to go to war against Syria and Russia.
In summation, why is all of this happening? Well, about a week ago, General Milley, the head of the Army, explained why. If you try to have the Brexit, or if Russia tries to pull out of the New World Order, or if patriots worldwide support the collapse of the EU because it's unelected, our military, working for the globalist, will hit you harder than you've ever been hit before. That's the message. And Russia is being scapegoated for the unraveling of the New World Order and world government.
The United States military, despite all our challenges, despite our op-tempo, despite everything we've been doing, will stop you and we will beat you harder than you've ever been beaten before. Make no mistake about that. Other countries, Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea, went to school on us. They closely watched how we fought in 91 and 03. They studied our doctrine, our tactics, our equipment, our organization, our training, and our leadership. And in turn, they revised their own doctrines, and they are rapidly modernizing the militaries today to avoid our strengths in hopes of defeating us at some point in the future. First, not surprisingly, is that will be highly lethal, very highly lethal, unlike anything our Army has experienced, at least since World War II.
The world is in global turmoil. Major banks are going under on a routine basis. The biggest bank in Germany, Deutsche Bank, is teetering on the edge of collapse and will make Lehman Brothers look tame in comparison. And historically, when major collapses begin to happen, countries and empires tend to start wars as a political distraction so they can blame the international financial crises on the war itself and not on their own failed policies. And of course, they want to influence the election here. Every globalist publication, from the Washington Post to the Financial Times of London to The Economist, admits that with Brexit pulling out of the euro and with Russia pulling out of globalism, what's happening here with nationalism and Trump, they're on their last legs and they've got to prop Hillary up. She is their Stalingrad. She is their Waterloo. If she falls there, they believe in their own words, their whole system will completely unravel. Well, I got news for them. It's already unraveling. But they believe that if they can trick Russia into a physical war or cyber attack Russia and get Russia to respond back, they can then pull false flags during the election and use that as an excuse to blame Russia for any election problems. Then Homeland Security has to come in to federalize it further to protect the vote. The good news is, across the political spectrum, the intelligentsia is really waking up to the fact that we have a very dangerous criminal group in control of our country that wants to stay in control and who might even start a nuclear war to do so. And that's why the head of the Green Party and others have come out and said that Hillary Clinton is much more dangerous than Donald Trump because she says that she wants a war with Russia, she wants a war with Iran and others.
Under Hillary Clinton, we could slide into nuclear war very quickly from her declared policy in Syria. So I won't sleep well at night if Donald Trump is elected, but I sure won't sleep well at night if Hillary Clinton is elected.
The ball is now in your court. History is repeating itself in a very, very dangerous fashion. The criminal elements that have hijacked our country are trying to start physical wars with Russia and others. They're opening our borders up, bringing in jihadis here to destabilize things as well. They're taking over our election processes to, quote, protect it from the Russians, even as they announce they're going to launch a massive cyber attack against Russia in retaliation for something they can't even prove Russia did. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a critical time, probably one of the most critical times in all of human history and development. It's now time to hit a knee and start asking God to basically open more people's eyes up and that we would have peace on this planet and not thermonuclear war. The people are ready to be awakened. Please take this special report, email it to members of Congress, to local talk show hosts, and to mainstream media and say it's time to wake up and turn this country and the world around from the brink of Armageddon.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
But they took a lot of people away. People that they thought were going to make trouble for them. People that had guns or things they wanted, they just took them away.
Where?
Re-education camps, that's what they call it.
So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
I have decided we really need camps for adults. And we need the kind of camps that you all run. I mean, really.
All persons of Japanese descent were required to register. Now they were taken to racetracks and fairgrounds where the Army almost overnight had built assembly centers.
I'm a sorry citizen. I refuse to recognize you guys.
What kind of a situation in the U.S. would you see that happening?
I mean, we've got a lot of constitutionalists, a lot of people that stockpile weapons.
Plus, you have a lot of people that are coming out of the military that have the ability and the knowledge to build IEDs and to defeat law enforcement techniques.
These people are radicalized and they don't support the United States and they're disloyal to the United States. It's our right and our obligation to segregate them from the normal community.
That's what we're doing here, and let's not kid about it. We're building a domestic army because the government is afraid of its own citizens.
Put your gun down, really?
Rallying patriots worldwide in defense of human liberty. It's Alex Jones.
Are you some kind of a constitutionalist?
So these people who hold themselves out to be patriots are not. They're nothing more than domestic terrorists.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
I train hard. I work hard. I'm always looking for the best way to be the best version of myself. During Special Forces selection, it's not like you could ever take the easy road. You can't take steroids to make, being a Special Forces operator easy. I'm always looking for the best and natural way to get myself to the limit. That's the idea of getting in there and doing real hard work, just changing who you are, becoming better, stronger, faster, and ultimately harder to kill. I have to have the edge over my opponents. I believe that InfoWars products, Super Male Vitality, that gives me the edge. I've been taking it, and I'm still getting faster and stronger every day.
Start your journey to Super Male Vitality today at InfoWarsLife.com.